Just talk about how that played a role in your whole development as an artist. Your the way you love patterns and play with them.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the attraction point. Um, that clever breakdown of language. First of all, we are modules of language. That's what human beings are. It's almost as if the human body, with our five distinctive points, are like the hands of God. The head being like a thumb, and the legs and arms are the other fingers. And it is if we are on this planet to produce language for both creative and ultimately novel reasons. Um, and growing up, my attraction to music was always, the vibrato, the melody, the harmonics. My attraction to rap was the metaphor, the wordplay, the clever, the wittiness of being able to slice these words up and make them rhyme in this rhythm. And because of that obsession in trying to master the word, it unlocks the universe. Because there is no other time in language to where you would meet such obscure phrase couplets that you would in attempt to match syllabic patterns. In other words, a word like phrase couplets rhymes with brain function perfectly. Not perfectly, semi-perfectly, but the way that I curve the wordage, I can make those vowel sounds curve to sound perfectly. And because of that, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't normally run into those things.
I
you
see
know
what
I
you
mean?
did. I see what you did, B.
Yeah.
So, all right, go ahead.
So through this effort, it becomes like one thing. Us as humans, we're motivated by instant gratification. That's why getting a like on a picture feels so good.
Right.
For me, when I'm in my trance state and I'm writing, once I put myself in this area of thoughtlessness, I start to receive these transmissions. And when you lock in a bar, there's nothing better. Like on the album, I said trap sound behind. I said killed a cipher. Judge gave me 360. Trap sound behind bars. Frequency. So I killed the cipher. Judge gave me 360 years, 360 degrees in the cipher, right? Trap sound behind bars or imprison my
the
360
thoughts. Deal.
Yeah. Imprison my thoughts, exactly. Imprison my thoughts in these bar sequences. And what is sound is frequencies. However, when somebody goes to jail, you say freedom. So frequency is frequency. But because the frequency has to be locked in time in physical matter, it is jailed, it is imprisoned. You know what I mean? So
right,
it becomes its own philosophy.
You're so right. Yeah. That is exactly what you meant.
Yeah. Right. It's original philosophy that's built directly from the word. And it's something that I don't cross-reference with other philosophy because I believe that somebody had to write the book. And that person had to go and assimilate nature to do that. So I like to assimilate directly from the word and then study after the curiosity is found.
So your process,
you know
what I mean? Like you grab words, you make these patterns, you put them on paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you always on shrooms or psychedelics?
No.
How often do you take psychedelics for your creations?
As far my personal use with psychedelics is a very spiritual process. Psychedelics are very heavy. You know what I mean? It's not something that you can do if you have a chaotic or busy schedule. It's not something you can do if you're heavily stressed or you're not in a very peaceful environment. Setting plays a role in it too. Also the biochemistry of your body. So if I feel like I'm vastly unhealthy, I don't take shrooms either. However, I think I take them maybe once a quarter, once every 3-4 months. I'll do a shroom ceremony. And as far as directly writing on them, generally you can only do it at the very beginning and at the end, at the halo period. When you're really in the brunt of it, especially if you've taken enough, it's very hard. My mind is very abstract. So a lot of it comes in retrospective, me looking back at the trip And then it's still like, you know, your synaptic presence in your brain is very strong. So I'm making very obscure, abstract connections in that writing patterns. But I really, it's
and you're
just
making them on the trip. So like you're tripping, you're making those connections, but you're not necessarily writing them down.
not a lot of the times I do write them down. I have to capture them immediately. I always have my iPhone's notepad out, because then they start building up, and I'd have to go in my head, and you know, you have little breadcrumbs there, and you get better at finding lost thoughts as you lose them. The more you lose thoughts, the better you get at finding them. So I can find, like, I've lost entire rhymes, and then through finding one of the words, I can anticipate my patterns, and I can find them all. But it's very hard to do, so I'm always writing live. But my most intense trips, there was no writing even in thought. I mean, there's no me, you know. There's no. I would be so abstracted. I wouldn't be able to hold myself together in this environment. I just have to leave, like, technology, everything. My sensitivity to electronics and magnetism, it's too overbearing for me to think about rap. You know what I mean? I would be highly stranged out. It's alien. But I would say that I'm permanently affected by my psychedelic usage. So in a sense, I'm always writing on shrooms.
Fair enough. Yeah. Now I know you just started smoking weed recently, within the last few years or so, correct?
I'm a 7 year.
7 years now.
Weed,
okay, I was gonna say yeah.
7 years. 7 years long.
Good job. Good job. Welcome to the right
Now,
side.
did that start helping you focus better?
Yes,
It did.
yes, it did.
Okay.
Yes, it did. My connection with my rhymes and my weed, I will admit to anybody that doesn't smoke weed, be very aware and don't believe people that tell you it's non-addictive. Anything that feels good can be addictive. I have created a somewhat, maybe some would consider an unhealthy relationship with marijuana because I have a obsessive writing tendency. So if I'm smoking when I'm writing, and I'm writing all the time, that means I'm always smoking.
Do you think you would be you would fall into the Eminem situation where he sounded better on drugs?
I would if I didn't develop my primary foundation clean and sober. So
right.
I've been rapping more years as a sober human than I was as a high person. But to more further answer your question, in its relationship to my ability to focus, yes, absolutely. Before I used to have other methods of being able to trip myself into a trance state, because that's what you're doing. You're trying to find patterns to get yourself into a meditative state. So I used to have, I used to wait until late at night, maybe go for a walk, remove usually walk outside, nobody can be around me. And it used to take me a while to get into it. And I used to have to set up deadlines. Because that was the only way because what other reason? It's not like at the time that I was developing myself as a sober person, I never had like somebody saying, yo, you gotta do this today. You know what I mean? So I used to have to set up deadlines without, like, before even me doing it, to get myself to sit down and write it. And just the force and the anxiety of maybe missing my deadline used to trip me into my meditative state, kind of like somebody that's doing their homework a night before. So but marijuana has helped me in many ways as it's crippled me.
So who's Bada, and where did Bada come from?
Bada was born when I was 15. Bada came from the darkness, and writing became my outlet as far as my reclusiveness and my isolation went. From being Kemp and in a certain chaotic situation around me, not having a real consistent male figure around me, the drug activity, growing up in New Haven as a whole, and then having a certain predisposed awareness, just for whatever reason, I was able to see things a little different than my peers, and because of that, it alienated me in a sense. I was able to be social and be funny, but my relationship with people was vastly comedic. It wasn't really one of authenticness. I've had really few friends that were my best friends through my life, you know what I mean? So I would say that Bada was that. Bada is the hyperbole. That's the deity that I've created, and it was born, from the aspects of hip hop. Me actually writing, I found the name in the midst of writing. It was stemmed from Africa Bambaataa, I will say that, even though he's been tied to some very heinous sexual acts, including boys. So
all boys. It's not
I was waiting for you to stop so I get right at that. That was the first thing I was going to say. I said, hold on. I was swear to God, son. I was waiting for you to stop so I could get right into that Bambaataa thing, because the name's so close to it that I was like, yo.
He has a little bit of.
Lord Jamar actually, like, that was the first question he put out at the release. Lord Jamar was like, yo, let's talk about the closeness of Bambaataa and Cambatta.
Mm-hmm.
But you handled that well. But if I'm not mistaken, it's not necessarily Cambatta you claiming like that. It's Cambatta.
Well, we are in the midst of a possible evolution here. You know what I mean? As the Pokemon fights, his experience level goes up and he shifts and evolves. So we don't know. We're gonna let time. Bada always exists.
So Bada wrote this album.
Bada wrote this album. Absolutely, Bada wrote this album. And here's the thing. Everything has a source. I personally would love to find out where Bambaataa got his name from. Because we're talking about a word combination here. There's Bam and there's Bada, right? Bada, as defined by every time I've tried to define it outside of him to add justification to my name. It is a popular currency used in India that is used by the drug dealers and gamblers underground. That is considered a Bada. It's also a popular name in Asia. And a cam is first of all, it's a recording device. One with the black hole that's using to suspend us in the time now. So that is a cam. And a camera is, my name is Cameron, spelled Cameron. Literally one letter away from camera. And I was actually born blind too.
So a visual currency.
It is. It's a visual currency, and it's also a mechanical currency. So a cam is also a motor system, a twin cam engine. So we have multiple ways that we can slice this up to get it as far away from a pedophile as possible.
But ultimately, you had said you had a little bit of influence in that name or that choice from what when I followed you for some time now. You had a little influence from the whole Dipset era, and then you kind of heard that, and you kind of went with he had said a line in that.
I'm old school like Bambaataa, no man's hotter. And while I was writing it, I was like, my name's Cam. It rhymes directly with Bam, even swap. I like to do that, like Marcus Garvey or the Barrio brothers. So it's Cambatta at the time, and it was just like, at the time, Bambaataa was the dude that made Planet Rock. He made Looking for the Perfect Beat. So everybody was pop locking. My uncle was a professional pop locker. So it was like it made sense. That was my introduction to hip hop, and maybe it wasn't Bambaataa raping those kids. Maybe it was the guy that Bambaataa puts the mask on. What was his real
name?
Lance.
Was it Lance?
That sounds like Glance, and that's exactly what the motherfucker was doing. He glanced every time he had a chance. God bless these souls, man.
Greek Bambaataa.
So Bada, what made Bada occur for this right now? Like, what took place in the universe, in the atmosphere, that made Bada manifest in such a way for this album?
For this specific album, purely as law of attraction as you want to get it. I mean, when I first started getting into what we consider the Black consciousness movement that we kind of consolidated by watching these specific channels on YouTube, I ran into Bobby Hemmett, Phil Valentine, A.A. Rashid, the Blue and Red Pills, just by searching for some way to learn from somebody that looked a little like me, because I was already studying Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna, so it was always like, are there any black dudes that are dope like this? You know what I mean? So of course Bobby Hemmett and Phil Valentine was the first of them. But these people were cradled on these channels, Sodnetta TV, Black Magic 363 with Brother Rich. So I always knew, I was like, somehow I have to get myself in these circles, because I feel like that I'm a vital piece to translating metaphysics. I'm somebody who developed my philosophy naturally, not from books. It didn't come from me studying books. It came from me basically defocalizing myself and putting myself in nature. Scaring the shit out of myself, traumatizing myself. That's how I gained my philosophy. And I believe that just like Phil Valentine and Bobby Hemmett and these master teachers, I have an opportunity to make some translations to people that may not be brave enough to go that far. So I knew that I had to somehow affiliate myself with these people. So in 2015, I came to New York, and the first thing I did was me and Nix, we bought tickets to the Brother Polite versus Harry, the
I was
Jewish.
with you on that.
You were there too?
Yeah.
Yeah, yo, oh, shoot.
I was there when you first met Red and Blue.
You were there? Yeah, you were there.
That's why I got this. That's why I got this piece.
What year was that? That was 2015?
That was 2015, you know what I mean? So on that time.
That was right before Polite.
It's been scamming for a while, huh?
Yeah, kind of. That was the last time I saw Polite involved like that.
Last time he robbed niggas in Harlem, huh?
Huh?
Last time he robbed Harlem, huh?
Oh man.
You gotta get the masses riled up.
Nigga, I can care less. Niggas just kiss my ass. Niggas kiss my ass. Nigga, I've been around long enough.
No doubt.
Niggas can say whatever they want to. I've been there. 10 years ago, decades ago, so I know exactly niggas robbing and stealing.
All right. Well, so you went to New York, 5 hours.
Yeah, I met with the Kings and the Lords, and I did the project with Red Pill, Scorpion King, and he's already so far deep into the consciousness movement that as soon as they heard that project, people were asking, who's Cambatta? So it was inevitable. And then Brother Rich reached out to me to do the theme song for his channel, and it was like the only thing people wanted to talk about in the comments was like, yo, where's this theme song from? So, I was like, yo, we not only do we have to give them this song, but we have to give them 5 more songs too. And this was just 3 weeks ago. So
you did this album in 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah. I recorded it and engineered it, and it was over. Damn, this shit just died. Yeah, it was over 3 weeks.
So, the alchemy of Brother Rich's sound and Bada, like the sound of Brother Rich summoned Bada to come to full manifestation.
Yeah, it was like I'm somebody like I look at rhyming or rap or hip hop as martial arts. It is something that you have to master your forms. I have to master all the disciplines. And it's like mixed martial arts in the sense that I have to know jujitsu, kung fu, all of these different things. And eventually you learn so many martial arts forms that you don't need any of them. You become very satisfied in your form, and any way that the breeze pushes you, you're malleable, you're adaptable. So I'm like water, man. Any container you put me in musically, I'm gonna be able to create out of at this point. I'm just very confident in my sword. So when he presented the music that he presented to me was music that I would never have picked. Just because I have a set mind, just like any human being, like you have what you like. Like if I go into a supermarket, I'm gonna buy the basic things I want. I have a very simple palate. So my shopping cart would be bare. It would take somebody else, a queen, to be like, nah, baby, you need to try this celery radish. You need to try this sour sop. That's the only way that you're gonna expand. So because of the fact that I was like, you know what, this is a Black Magic produced project. I want you to pick the beats, half the beats, and then I want us to make the other half. This wasn't maybe it wasn't said like that, but half of the beats were created live in person, and the other half were beats that he was already sitting on, that he sent to people already, that they couldn't create them. So we did them, and then we, it happened.
When you heard them, did you know like, yo, I'm gonna kill that, or were you like, yo, I normally wouldn't, but let me do this, let me try it.
Yeah. Oh, I already know.
You already knew you were gonna kill it.
Yeah, if it's a beat, I can kill it.
If it regardless.
Regardless.
So your linguistic skills, your see, this album to me is not a album where dudes are just rapping and it's a hot album where it's like it's literally a piece of art.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like, and I mean that not just because you my boy. Like, I'm saying that as a fan, as a hip hop sociologist, as a historian. When it comes to hip hop albums I've heard, I don't even see the visuals of you rhyming what you're saying. I see the word patterns.
Yeah.
Literally when I hear this album.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How intentional were you about making sure that you showed mastery lyricism? You know, like that, is that your niche? Is it like, yo, y'all can have, because you have a blend of cadence and the wordplay, of course, and the consciousness, and you still relate to the younger generation and the way they're bringing it. So was that like intentional of you, or was it just like, yo, I'm just gonna create what I'm learning, what I'm absorbing?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So I like to be as free and as thoughtless as possible when I'm creating. I like to basically draw from whatever sound I'm creating on. However, I know in 6 songs, not only is it 6 songs, but it's six beats, to which maybe 3 of them are beats that I can regularly exercise what I normally do as far as my wordplay. Because there's tempo, there's different things that go into the mix that can basically predict what I'm gonna do with my words. So I knew, I was like, all right, this might be my most vast audience as far as like directly converting fans. So I have to convert on a 100 to 100 conversion rate, and I have to do it in 6 songs. And not only just 6 songs, but 6 songs to which these aren't all bar spitting beats, you know what I mean? These aren't all beats to where normally you would hear somebody go off like that.
Yeah, like God good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
That's a whole different, and I wasn't even unsure about that because I never heard a beat like that changed frequencies that could.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
so, it was that, but I knew that I was talking to a audience that was familiar with metaphysics. Not only that, the people that are familiar with my level of rhyme syllabics are generally rap underground fans.
Okay, so I want to ask you about that, because now let me talk about a little criticism that comes towards you, which I can't stand. You know what I'm saying? And I'm some of these individuals I'm close with, and I just don't want to talk to them no more after they say this shit. But they say, like Ken smoking mirrors was dope. Now he just be talking shit I don't understand. He like an alien, and I'm like, he is an alien. You know what I'm saying? What do you say about those that are like, yo, you're over my head now. I can't. What do you say to that? Do you think you need to at all simplify anything? Do you think they have a responsibility to enlighten themselves if they want to get it? Like, what do you think?
Exactly. Like, I would be being dishonest and untrue if my musical evolution didn't reflect that of my spiritual and conscious and intellectual evolution. So they will always be hand in hand. And any man that cops out by saying, it's too much for me, he's doing too much, he needs to come down, is somebody that is somebody who might be facing a stagnation in their intellectual growth. Because if I'm reading a book that is too difficult for me to read, I have a choice. I could put that book down, or I could also pick up a dictionary and learn why this book is.
Or you could just go back to Clifford the Dog.
You could just go back to Clifford the Dog and kind of disregard it. But it's very easy for somebody to put me in a different shelf, in a miscellaneous basket, because people don't want to compete with things that they don't understand.
Right.
And I go through that a lot, where even when I'm in a room with other alpha dominant rhymers, in an attempt to not have to directly compete with what I've done creatively, it's much easier to put me in a different category. Than have to say, you know what, yo, I do real shit. I do that street shit that people can relate to.
You do the conscious. I'm not really with the conscious. You know,
and first of all, conscious is a general term, because you wouldn't be alive if you weren't conscious.
Exactly. That's like woke. Like you could be in bed woke.
Not only that, but I'm extremely balanced.
Doing nothing.
I'm extremely balanced. I talk about fucking, I talk about doing drugs, I talk about violence, I talk about everything that's in the diaspora of being a man and being a human being.
Right.
So it to me, the gun is the sword. Mm-hmm. It's the spirit, right? Sex, fucking, pussy, that's procreation. Drugs, drinking, these are potions. This is the witch's brew. Mm-hmm. Partying, you know, popping bottles, that's celebration. Mm-hmm. Humans only have so much in their spectrum, right? It's just that we're so good and we're so creative that we can create infinity and even limitations. Mm-hmm. So it's a situation where I'm only useful if I'm doing something new. If I'm telling the same story that's been told in hip hop, because everybody knows the street story. That's why every superhero movie is the same. That's why the Christ story, Superman story, Heru story, Batman story, Wolverine story, it's all the same story. Every single hip hop album that you get is either telling a love song, a street song from the bottom to the top. You're not saying, like in the 80s and the 90s, we might have heard it for the first time and be like, wow, that hit me right there, now, like that jail story. But now it's just like, we need something new to talk about. We do. We need something new to talk about. And we're in the information age, and we're supposed to be evolving as a people. And by me trying to inspire people, especially people that look like me, because that's the first thing we have is the visual aspect. Mm-hmm. I promise you, there's a lot of white rappers right now that are going ham on this shit right now. You see the top 10 iTunes list? I do. Did you see it? I do. Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know how many white rappers are out there rapping like Cambatta right now? You know how long it's going to take for you to find somebody that has the syllabic cadence that I do? Not long. Right. Well, nah, I'm going to disagree with that because I was listening to the M album on the way up to the release party. Yeah. I don't know if y'all heard the M album, right? And I was like, yo, he still got old M, like, lyrically on a technical level, like, you mastered that well. Right. Then I heard, Holy Ghost. Definitely. And I was like, see, now that's what M would have loved to be if he was black. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. I will. Definitely. I will say that he is the only other person that I put in that category syllabically, and I do believe at this point in my life, I have mastered this word. There's no syllabic count that I can't give you completely random dope bars from for the whole entire song. Like for instance, I have a song called Michael Jackson. You've heard it. Oh yeah. It's 4.5 minutes long. I chronologically create a Michael Jackson deity, and everything rhymes with Michael Jackson from the beginning to the end. At the end, I say Michael Jackson. I didn't get to say bye to Catherine. So Michael Jackson and bye to Catherine, which is his mother, just happens to rhyme perfectly. Just like, so I say, my name is Michael Jackson. Perfect mix of white and black skin. Nose carved by the finest craftsman. Moonwalk across ice and aspen. Modern Christ of Nazareth. Beyond anything the mind imagine. My name is Michael Jackson. What I say? Diamond brightening flashing. Wild matching fashion. Back when, remember the time was platinum. Wow. So basically, everything that you can use to define. You said stories never ending. I feel like Sebastian. But more like Michael Jackson. Yeah, I love that. So, but more like Michael Jackson. A man body that a child's trapped in. Instead of playing, it's most likely practice. Joseph hit me with a violent thrashing. Work us like we addicts. Spirit stifle stagnant. Daddy, I ain't faggot. Give a kid a hug. People think I'm trying to grab him. Call it pedophile's actions. But I'm just Michael Jackson. You know, so it just so happens everything that I could relate to him as a species rhymes with his name. What are the chances and how look, because we're talking about algorithms here. We're talking about us being very dynamic coding encapsulated in what we define as a physical body. But this is just our God senses quantifying information into what we consider this. So we are coding. And it is possible that in every facet of you, there is a connectable pattern. It's just that it takes very high level decoders to find all the patterns in a specific human. Michael Jackson being one of the most popular deities of our existence, Christ level, right? And I mean, he's even had the crucifixion through in our times, it's always through sexual. Definitely. You know what I mean? Like Everybody, Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson. Look at all the Michaels. They always get struck down. All in this era, the crucifixion is through sex. Everybody's got it at some point. Even, I mean, just think about it. Like
I'd be fucked up. Like if I was a big, celeb.
Oh no.
They're gonna get me somewhere. They're gonna be like, we found this pic that you sent with somebody you were dating. You know what I mean? Right. And that's it. Like somewhere, I think every single one of us somewhere they could dig up some shit.
That's it.
And find some. They'll find your browser.
And a good lyricist could read your name and figure out everything you're gonna do based on the rhymes that happen to coordinate with it. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Break down real quick, since you were talking about the Michael Jackson, the way you did the LSD and the DMT.
Yeah.
See, and I say that because a lot of these dudes that rhyme, and I also want to talk about the conversation that takes place here in Connecticut about who the top MC is.
Yeah. And
I don't hear you enough.
No, they don't.
And I say this shit every motherfucking time. I'm like, how? Right. What?
Yeah, me
how
too.
How dare you?
Like, and I just found out about you, so I was like, how did I not know about this?
Yo,
like,
I was saying to my boy, I was like, this? I said no lie. I was like, yo, you gotta hear this, and you will. Like, I told him, like, you will respect this. Don't even come to me with no other shit. So, and I say that because, like, a lot of these dudes rhyme. And it's like, it's one thing to rhyme and say, I want to pour out my heart. Like, you should always be pouring out your heart, right? Mm-hmm. And pouring your spirit, your soul onto the paper. But when you say you're a MC, when you say you're a lyricist, when you say that this craft is what you get on the mic and you are the top at, there is a certain approach we should be taking to it that is much more serious than just let me just put these rhymes on and make it sound dope. Right. Mm-hmm. And what you do is definitely that. And I want you to just break down the way you did that with DMT and LSD. Yeah. How you did that whole rhyme. Because I tried to explain it to people and they're like, wait, huh? And I can't give them an example.
Once you go to do it, it gets very hard. So basically, like, I try to set up as many systematic controls as I can. You know what I mean? It's the borders of the canvas are your limitations. And the nicer you are with your sword, the harder it is to find different stones to turn over. So with something like that, it's about saying, all right, I'm looking through the annals of hip hop, and I'm saying, in order for me to solidify myself as a great, I'm gonna have to do feats. I'm gonna have to prove my miracles. My Christ in these different prophetic.
They all showed off.
They all had something that they did to show what their magic was. Mm-hmm. And DMT is basically me taking an acronym, DMT, which in the reference to where I'm using it in is dimethyltryptamine, which is a super psychedelic basically, and it's also in your brain. You know what I mean? It's what's responsible for internal visions and dreams. So, and it's something that I've interfaced with on many occasions. So I was like, you know what? I want to explain my mindset on DMT, but I want to rhyme with DMT as in sequence for the entire song, including the hook, to create that control and also to show you that the whole experience can be encapsulated in its acronym. You know what I mean? And it's what is DMT? Dimensional mind travel. The devil might trap you. It used to be a Dogon mapping tool. How the dark man thrive. Deceptive manipulation of time. It's a dope magic telescope. The doorway to many things. So I do major tokes till I damage my throat. I'm a dead man talking. I died maybe twice like a gram. Not your dad mother's type. Yo, get my damn music tight before I dial my troops and we demonstrate melee tonight. So it's like, I do it in a way where it's so slick, you forget that it's happening.
Yeah, right. You do. Man.
You feel me?
Yeah, you forget.
Yeah.
And the new one, and I was like, you know what? It hit people, but I was like, the new album's called LSD. I have to do it again with LSD. So what is LSD? But a little strip of destiny. When the lonely silence is deafening. And it goes on from there. I don't want to give too much of it away, but I said, you know, it's crazy, and but it's just the way I do it, man. It's like Nas had I Gave You Power. He had the Rewind song.
Right.
He had a lot of dope concepts. You got Joyner Lucas right now, who's doing the conceptual pieces. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he. I mean, to be real with you, he disappointed me. I won't get on it too much, but like, bro, why was the verse for the black dude so weak?
Yeah,
that shit was weak as hell, man. Like your rebuttal was like, we got fried chicken and watermelon. He said that shit. How is that justifying greatness on the other side? Like this dude just broke down economical perceptions, social, political. All this, and then you come in response with your shit. So I felt like if that was something you did, for example, I felt like it would have been much. That verse would have been loaded with way more.
Yeah, probably been a little bit more comprehensive. I mean, and just to justify the differences, you know, I'm clearly a human being that takes time to do those things. Where I can't necessarily speak for him. We have crossed paths, but I know that his objective is a little different than mine. You know what I mean? Like, and it's being fulfilled. Both of our objections are being fulfilled, clearly.
How much do you put stock into the fact, like, we're talking about Connecticut, like when Diddy was talking about, you know, no hoods in Connecticut and shit like that, and everybody really got butthurt about that. How much do you put even stock into that, of whether you're in the conversation of top 5, top 10, or whatever in Connecticut, or whether you're putting it on for your city and all that? How much do you even give a fuck?
You know, I don't let any external things really affect me. I pay little attention to most things in culture unless it serves purpose for my rhymes. If I could find a rhyme pattern.
So that doesn't bother you, the fact that you are in this state where you can go to New York, mad love. Yeah. Philly, Chicago, overseas, but in your state, it's not the love that's equivalent to out of state. Like, that doesn't bother you at all?
It's something that I believe is in my control, and it will be satisfied soon, inevitably, through my success, right? But as far as it, first of all, Connecticut is not a major media hub for entertainment, right? And the hoods make up a very small population of the size of this state, right? So the black people in it, I believe, are a minority in this state, right? Is it mostly trees and white people?
We're an overwhelming minority.
Yeah, I'm about to say, because I'm thinking Greenwich, I'm thinking all these other places, man.
We don't even exist.
We're like 10% of the population here in Connecticut.
Right, which is the reason why every time I talk to somebody, they sitting there like, yo, Connecticut's a rich state. Oh, y'all got black folk out there.
Right, yeah.
So he doesn't, Diddy doesn't know, right? And we don't have any huge groundbreaking artists like a Drake or a J. Cole yet. I mean, and even look at a J. Cole. He's from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Is there big skyscrapers being built there? Nah, like that whole hometown thing is slightly a selfish aspect of, yo, I want more people out of my state to go. Really, you're talking about yourself, first of all. Because 5 people could be very famous out of New Haven tomorrow. I could get up and be the biggest rapper of all time. It's gonna serve the youth because now they have somebody from their town that they can look up to. But all the other rappers, do they think that I'm gonna just dump all their bank account with money? Like, what do they think is gonna change other than awareness, right? And once I get big enough, right, then you can start creating platforms in your hometown. You could build studios. I could do things with the schools to where I donate that. But that's not gonna stop jealousness and hatred. You know, that's all. We're talking about men that are all looking to be kings. They're all looking to be kings.
Do you think it's something different with Connecticut, though, of why you yourself is not mentioned? Because I'm sorry, I get mad.
I get upset, but I know why, man. We're very visual. We're very visual here. I don't represent materialism yet. You feel me? And I believe that's something that should happen naturally. My adornments are gonna come with my kingship. You know what I mean? So as my wealth grows, so should my adornments. It would be false for me to go out and buy $500 sneakers when that's exactly how much money I need to get my video done. People have their priorities wrong. So it's to me, it's a visual thing. You feel me? Because I always try to go outside of the box and say, why aren't people necessarily fucking with me? But they like this hood rapper. They like this person. They like that person. That person is shining with a Benz behind them, with all the pretty women popping bottles
and talking about nothing.
They're not.
But
yeah.
we have to be honest with ourselves here when we look at it. I mean, us even. The conscious community here in Connecticut is little to none. We don't have a community here that's that big or would be relatable or would look at your music or listen to your music and say, oh, I hear what he's talking about, I understand it. No, we don't have that.
No.
So that's why you say you get the rebuttals you get from your people.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people, I share something within a group, they're not taken to that.
Mm-mm.
They're not taken to that. Or if something were, that's beyond what they can comprehend.
Right.
They want what's simple. Everybody's looking for what's simple.
What's simple?
Simple is easy.
Yeah,
Simple is fast.
it's so easy. And with yours,
New Haven, like New Haven deal with people they know. Like you know what I'm saying? Like every little neighborhood, right? I don't even want to talk about it like in that manner because it make it sound negative. But we got certain areas in New Haven, right? And every single section got their own little rappers already, and most of them is inside the other shit. Yeah, the street. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's the best way.
Because New Haven's such a small town.
Such a small town. When you gotta be, sensitive. Sensitive to what the fuck you're saying. Because niggas is sensitive.
Exactly.
But
I don't see that.
That's what I'm saying. There's a certain street culture that people like to be like, yo, I deal with them because it's the niche of the street culture. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm listening to, I've never even heard none of your shit, B. I heard Jay, right, say, yo, listen. He was like, yo, this ain't Cambatta, boom, boom. My man got this hot shit, boom, 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 boom. I ain't never heard of it. But I just listened to, you know what I'm saying? I used to do music. So I listened to how you talk, the mannerism or how you broke down your different songs and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, I can see why. Yeah. Hood niggas is not fucking with this shit.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, of course.
Because like I said, I'm an artist, my own self, so I write. So I'm like, oh, boom, boom, boom. I can see his concept, see that. We ain't got no vision though. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? As a people, period. And when you're dealing with hood niggas, period, they really ain't got no vision to see where you coming from. You know what I mean? Even if it's shown to them, they can be able to see it. Yeah. Their mind still is like, yo, listen, I'm not trying to see where the fuck you coming from. You know
so I can say this. I can say this too, though, that, and you're absolutely right. I agree 1,000%. However, if there was an album that was gonna cross over, it's Holy Ghost. Yeah. Because I had somebody that I was rocking with earlier. And, at first she was like, feeling, I showed her like the evolution of you. Yeah. And at first she was feeling like, she was like rocking to Go. Yeah. And then God is Good came on. Yeah. And it was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like, that was really hitting it. Then Mayweather came on. Yeah. And she was like rocking to it. And she's younger, you know what I'm saying? She's rocking to it like, like the younger ones would. Yeah. Everybody I showed went to the barbershop. Like there was something that even the most hood dudes was like, yo, but who, like, yo,
I think the 21 and under. I think the 21 and unders. I think like 21, 20, like 25 maybe and unders. Fuck with his energy.
They fuck
because because the 25, 21 and under. We had a little different sex and type of people, type of mind states that we had come through New Haven. So about 25, 26, 27. And under, they start to clean their mind up a little bit, or they didn't get the same type of shit that we had. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So they could be able to see things a little bit different. They're starting to recapture having imagination, having dreams and stuff like that. So they can hear what he's giving and they can hear the tune behind it. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so I know I'm gonna take his music, I'm gonna give it to my daughter. I'm like, yo, listen, you listen to it, and then if she like it, then I can be able to really tell how this shit really is. You know what I'm saying? Because she don't listen to. She rarely listen to any of the hip hop that come on now. Rare. She listen to K-pop and shit like that. She like, yo, she like, y'all don't like that shit. But I'm listening to the mannerism that you're giving off your information and how you're spitting. I'm like, oh, she'll fly with that.
Because so you haven't heard Holy Ghost.
She can hear whole words. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just know from now that if I listen to it, he's articulating a complete sentence. Yeah. And so with people who complete their thoughts, easier for me to be able to listen to their music because it's complete thoughts. It's hard for me to listen to a lot of the new music because it's so it's so microwave that they jump from one thought to the next thought to the next thought. You know, you got 16 bars, and then with them 16 bars, you got 24 different goddamn thoughts in 16 bars. You're like, how the fuck did you do that? And there's no complete, nothing that flows along in the storyline where I can stay with it. But I'm listening to something, I'm like, all right, I can flow with no music behind it, but I can flow with his words, like the story, and I can
and the patterns, and that's what structure.
So that's the good.
You gotta check out Tupac Murder Confession.
Yeah, that's one of that one. That's like paints the whole story. You could just close your eyes and listen to that and like. Word,
Pop got them.
You can't deny that. You can't deny that because it still had bars, it still had syllabics, and I basically told the whole Pac death story with details from the point of view of the killer, and then tied it up metaphysically at the end. So it's like I'm not trying to be popular. I don't care about anything else but complete greatness. I want to solidify in my own narcissistic mind. I want to finish my life as the greatest to do this. Yeah. So I'm only trying to do feats that no other man can do. That's point blank. Along the way, people are going to see that. People that have similar minds are going to see that. And all you need is about, 100,000 to 1 million of these 7 billion humans to solidify that. But when you're in the church setting, you have your preachers, you have your deacons, you have your ministers. Those are the ones that read the Bible. The congregation is generally there because they want the translation from the priest. Those people go home, they go to their bedside, and they do their best to get through this old English. But this is one of the hardest, most confusing books to read in life for most people, unless you possess the ability to assimilate it, right? That's why there's a million different religions based off of one book, right? So I don't expect, number one, I don't expect everybody to be able to write a Bible, but I don't also expect everybody to be able to read one. And the ones that will be the ones to disseminate the knowledge to the people. Like, that's what it is. I'm never throttling back. Now, I do like to party. I do like to have fun. I do like to get lit. So in some messages, some of the most complex concepts have to be simplified. So my style is not all about complexity and vocabulary. So some things are going to come out as simple as 1, 2, 3, ABC, but they're going to be in a way.
That's the balance, though.
That's the balance
right there. Because like even in God Is Good, like or Mayweather with the Mayweather track. Yeah, the Mayweather track has like this bounce to it, and it's like. Something the way I do it. Something about the way I do it. You know what I mean? And you slip these patterns, these flows in there that are simple as fuck. Like they're simple. Then all of a sudden you switch it up. And you can start going way complex. Then you bring it back and you switch up the flow. I mean, it's incredible, bro.
So there are certain concepts, certain threads that are through my style that I refuse to let go of, and that's my rhyme scheme. Everything's gonna rhyme. You know what I mean? Like. Everything's going to rhyme, and there's always going to be some entendre and metaphorical use in there. So that's because I don't want there to ever be like me. I don't listen to rap unless somebody's doing it. I literally will list my playlist is comprised of 98% soul music, neo soul, and new jack swing. And I only listen to rap if they have those elements because it's generally vastly non-melodic.
So there's not many rappers you're listening to right now?
Almost none. I don't listen to that many rappers, man. Like I don't eat from the pond I supply. Like I just literally I go there, give them the bars, and then go back to my tribe. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. Like I try not to get wrapped up in it.
You're a real secluded. Oh, yeah. I thought okay. You got it. You sure? You're a real secluded artist, right?
Definitely. I'm one that creates I create once everybody goes to sleep, and I know that nobody's going to interrupt me.
So the witch hour?
At least witching hours, yeah. Generally, I'm still up. He'll get up for work if I'm asleep. If I'm at the studio in the Bronx, people will get up, and they'll hear me in the studio recording, man. You know what I mean? I sleep. I go to sleep when my body can't create anymore. You know what I mean? My circadian rhythm's all funked out.
So like what? Like what's your regimen?
My regimen is get through my day, do as many things as I can to alleviate the duties of being a human. And,
what do you mean by that?
Like literally my interpersonal connections. So make sure I, talk to as many people that I respond to as many people as I can.
Appreciate that.
If I can. Business related things. So anything like this related stuff, like media, shows, stuff like that. But generally, like after 12, after like 3 a.m., that's when I'm trying to put the beats on, trying to roll like 4 or 5 blunts, and just get into my mode, man. That's when I come alive once I'm by myself.
Who were your inspirations? Your rap inspirations, hip hop.
Hip hop specifically. I came in. I would say Big L. Big L's '98 freestyle. You know what I mean? He said, yo. Fuck all the plans to get rich. I'm running around, never was a fan of the Knicks, so I'm all about expanding my chips. And on this freestyle, he had this line. He said, get enough bread and ask Beavis, I get nothing but head. And I was just like, ask Beavis, I get nothing but head. I was like, that's dope.
This is where rhyme patterns started to come in.
I was just like, and then hearing like Biggie. Biggie's album was the first that I memorized, and this was late. This was when I was 13, so this is already like 99, 2000. It was wordplay, it was punchline. So I would say Biggie, Big L, Eminem's rhyme sequencing, Lupe Fiasco's literary technique.
Yes.
Jay-Z's overall cadence and freedom, like I believe he emotes in a way that is effortless, and Nas's conceptual execution.
What happened to X? What happened to
X? Okay, X is energy and delivery. X is energy. X has always been in my top 5. Thank you for reminding me. X will always be in my top 5 no matter what. I think that his first 2.5 albums were just pure perfection, and there'll never be another one like him. You know what I mean?
Never.
If he would have died after his second album, he would have been in that greatest ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to put death on somebody.
Technically,
like that.
he did though.
Yeah, technically he did.
Yeah, because Hollywood definitely got him all up in that thing.
Saying?
First movie, you're done.
I don't even know if we've seen DMX since the second album.
He's completely and that's no disrespect, man. Like, I don't know how famous I'm gonna get, so maybe they'll cross-reference this in the future. I love DMX.
We all love DMX.
You know what I mean? So, I will say that the mind is something that's non-comparable to the physique, because it's like the peak is different. So like if I'm in the NBA and I'm Michael Jordan and I have to run and jump, you can expect my body to start slowing down in my late 30s to early 40s, depending on how I take care of myself. However, rapping is a much more of a mental thing. And maybe, if you're not always doing something mental, your brain can atrophy or your vocal cords can change. But it shouldn't be like that. These people should be sharpening their tools the whole time, and it seems like DMX has lost some brain cells because he's not even on beat anymore. Like, to me, like back in the day, he would be like, I'm in the bomb and a whoop, like everything was on beat. You know what I mean? Now it's just like, now he's like a parody of himself. You know?
They actually, I'm reading or listening to this book called Super Brain, Deepak Chopra, and they talk about the science of the brain and like certain myths that people have about the brain that aren't real. And like for example, they talk about how when you get old age causes loss of memory, and they're like, actually statistically, no, that's not true. You actually have that you could have just as less loss of memory at a young age as an old age. The reason why we lose memory a lot of times attributes to the fact that we stop learning, and we stop trying to absorb and learn something new, pick up new habits, pick up new books, study. That's what really causes our old age.
And also,
old people do crossword puzzles.
Right. They keep sharp. And they were talking about like 90-year-olds that can cover the stock market and remember portfolios. They were saying like,
you know what my Grammy gave? She gave me a jewel. She said, "I'm not losing my memory. However, my cabinets are getting full and messy." So in other words, in old age, you acquire more experience in more situations. That means you're constantly filing off all these memories. It's going to be harder to go through those files and say, you know what, that day when I was 13 and I caught that rabbit in my backyard. It's going to be harder for you to cross-reference specifics because you have so many.
Right. So you got to get rid of shit.
Yeah, and most people don't. They hold on to
Categorize
something.
it right.
What about like, because of you being an artist, what about relationships and shit like that? Are you sacrificing the idea of like settling down, the kid, shit like that for this mission?
My entire relationship history has all been based on my music endeavors. This is my primary focus. So, however, and the reason why it's I wouldn't say it hurt it. The reason why I have it as my primary focus is because I will be vastly unfulfilled and potentialized unless I feel like I've done what I was set to do. So in that case, I don't have the time to just frolic. You know what I mean? Also, you realize the repetition in certain aspects of relationship, you know, going out to dinner, watching movies, laying down, the kind of, you know, waking up, doing the repetition. I realized, you know what I mean? Like, I realized that at this point, it's more beneficial for me in some ways to spend more focus on solidifying my kingdom and my abundance, so that way when it's time for me to start a family, you know, that I have the choice. Of course, some things would have, if I already had a kid, I would have to just deal with it, but because I don't, like, I basically have no responsibilities.
So you trying to do numerous wives or one wife?
I don't think that I have the capacity to handle more than one woman at one time with like, because of course I could if I literally didn't communicate to half of them, and some of them knew it, like, you're just for sex, you're just for filing, you know, this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? Like,
everybody had a role.
Yeah, like,
Right.
I understand that.
you know what I mean? Like, maybe, you know, I could see that interfacing with women could be easier if I had just a team full of women that handled mostly things, and if I could be somehow sexual with all of them without any interference and being able to have everybody be happy. I mean, that would be a dream come true, but that doesn't happen, you know what I mean? It's too powerful, and you end up having kids, and you know, so really my focus in the process of procreation is perfecting.
So what do you think about the original intent for us? Like, are we doing it right? Do you think monogamy is the way that we naturally should be going, or do you think that's man-made and we were forced into that type of?
Well, first of all, the design denotes function, so we wouldn't be able to have multiple babies if it wasn't in our capacity, right? Number two, I think that it's propagated on your living situation, the culture, environment, and population of people around you. So if we were living in a dying world and, you know, it was an Armageddon, it would be appropriate for each of us to have 20 kids because we're trying to repopulate the earth. But your amount of kids and the amount of wives should definitely be codependent on how much financial stability you have. So if you cannot afford you know, one wife and one kid, then you shouldn't be having two of each, you know what I mean? Just because you're kind of overloading here, you know what I mean? That's just natural logic. However, that's all it's tied to, and of course. All
right, so the finances are in place. You're good.
He just wants you to say that you want multiple wives.
No, I really want to talk about the conversation of like what you feel the origin is of what we are intended to do. Are we intended to?
Yes, the kings are. The alpha kings have that choice. The alpha kings that have so not every, like, you know, maybe there is a natural hierarchy in a sense where some people are the shaman, just naturally born, you're just a spiritual person. Some people are born to be like these really aggressive warriors. Some people are born as nurses and caretakers. And maybe it changes, but we're just talking about predispositions here. You know what I mean? So you have a choice to change however you want. Mm-hmm. But yes, absolutely. If what we're saying is if I become the king that I know I am, and I have the abundance that I know is in my way, and if my interest was in more than one woman, and I can handle it, then definitely I don't think it's against nature. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's okay for me to have multiple homeboys, right? And the things me and you would do would go play ball, you know, create shows, you know, play cards, you know, bet on basketball games. when interfacing with a woman, it's a little different. And sometimes expressing yourself leads to sex, you know what I mean? And it shouldn't, sex has been vastly perverted and scandalized. So it's automatically looked at something nasty and whorish, but it's communication. So if I'm communicating, and the women that I'm communicating with understand that this is a method of my communication, and certain things cannot be understood unless I know you, because what is knowing? You know what I mean? I don't know you.
Right. I mean, in the Bible, if you're going to go to the Bible, when they say he knew her, he smashed.
Yeah, basically. So
that's what it means.
So yeah. I think at a certain point, yeah. And here's the thing. Like in procreation, right? You have your genetics. I have my genetics. How many times can we roll a dice? You know what I mean? Of course, we could get different combinations of the same thing, but in order for me to really diversify, now, for me to diversify my genes, I will have to implant. I will have to. I probably should implant on every continent on this planet. If I'm talking about dream bada, and maybe the only provable method of reincarnation is procreation. Maybe the only way that I can guarantee I come back here. Maybe I don't want to come back here, but it's guaranteed. Yeah. So maybe I should spread my seed to a woman on every planet and just make sure I financially handle them and I spread my time out to make sure.
I mean, depending on where it's at, child support will be cheaper. Like if you're doing it overseas,
that's it.
You know what I mean?
That's it. I mean, I would like to be there to maybe I can stagger the ages so that way I can like, be there. You know what I mean? Or maybe through childhood. You know what I mean? But. Yo, if we got the capacity to think it, and I want to be a king like King Hannibal, and first of all, I want to create my own last name. This is something that I'm going to do. A last name that's unique only to me, so that all my kids will have a direct descendant that they know.
What will it be? Do you know?
I cannot put it in the air right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Until it's solid. But yes, I do journey that would be something that I would have to do if I want to ensure that my mark is left on this planet. So how you choose
this woman that will do that is key.
Yes, and it would be based off of trauma history, genetics.
Her trauma history.
Yes, trauma history. If I'm going this route, because I have to think purely about the alchemy I'm creating.
But you're not going this route, though.
I don't know. It's a conceptual piece. I don't know
mean,
if
you're talking about a...
Let them choose you. Don't go choose them.
Yeah.
Let them choose you.
Right. I mean, but you're talking about an artist that like...
What